Hey, hello, wow, yay, yay, all that stupid ass shit. Let's talk about He-Man, or as I like to call him, person existence, carbon unit, something like that.
Breathing person.
Fucking, wow, that's pretty creative. How come you ain't fucking? How can you do fucking? It's
How come? How come you are a fucking big time celeb?
how come? How come? How come? How come? How
Why
come?
come?
First of all, why come you ain't got a tattoo? But also, if you're so smart, why come you ain't know that? Fucking, whenever I mention Carl's Jr., they pay me. If you're so smart, how come you don't know that? But there's the big controversy with the new He-Man reboot, where people are like, oh, the new He-Man reboot is so woke, it's ruining everything. Which the show's not out yet, so nobody knows. People are acting like they know, and in fact, there's people are acting like, oh, I saw the script, and the script is totally woke. It's so woke that it went broke, and it's like,
Ruins
okay.
everything. They ruined everything. They ruined my childhood. I was
Um,
such a big fan of He-Man.
Yeah, first of all, can't believe they raped my childhood, which is for sure bad. That's not good. Um, Me and my brother actually were old enough to have the He-Man toys and remember the original He-Man cartoon when it aired, and it sucked. The original cartoon sucked. The
It was
toys were
unwatchable.
generic.
It was completely unwatchable.
Yeah, it was just well, we're going to get into that in a little bit, but to start off with, this video brought to you by our wonderful backers on Subscribe Star linked below. There, that's enough for a plug, isn't it? Who gives a shit? Um,
I
we
guess.
heard about the new He-Man reboot, and I guess Kevin Smith is involved. I don't really give a shit.
I only heard about it because of all the whining about it.
Yeah,
So congratulations on the Streisand effect.
yeah, legitimately, I was like, did it come out already? The new He-Man show's out? And I was like, no, it's not out. I looked it up today just to make sure. I was like, it's premiering on June the 20th or something. It's like, okay, but I guess
Whatever. Whatever.
whatevs, as the
I
cool kids
won't be
say.
seeing it no matter what.
The thing is, anyone who was old enough to remember He-Man back in the day when He-Man existed doesn't give a shit. If you're really that old enough, which we are, which is actually
Yeah. I
as
remember I remember seeing it, that and
yeah.
Scooby-Doo. They're terrible shows.
Remember that gay shit from the 80s? Remember shit like cartoons from the 80s?
Well, those were from the 70s.
Scooby Doo. Fucking Scooby
Scooby-Doo
Doo
was
was
'60s.
the only cool thing about Scooby Doo is that apparently, in an episode of Scooby Doo, like some ghosts hung themselves from nooses, and it encouraged some kids to hang themselves from nooses and they died. That's pretty cool.
Ah, haha. That's
Lol,
the only good thing.
lol, irrol, as the squiddos like to say.
A role.
But there was a reboot of He-Man in 2002. But oh wait, who cares about that? No one was talking about that.
That's actually the thing is I had not even heard about that shit
Yeah, somebody linked to
until
that, and it's just free on YouTube. It's like here, He-Man, super reboot, brand new thing, and it's got all this shit, and it's almost kind of funny because I started watching it. Someone linked to it, and it's like an hour and a half video of 4 episodes, and the first one's just. I mean, the very beginning, it's, the regular intro to the cartoon. And it's like, hey, I'm going to this guy. Whatever the He-Man's actual real life name was. And it's like, hey, guys, and this is my tiger, Cringo, or whatever. His tiger's name was Cringe, and it was a green tiger, and we'll get into that in a minute, too.
it
But
was pure
cringe.
cringe.
But he's like, and this is my adventures. And then all of a sudden, lasers shoot them and they explode. And it's like, oh no, they died in the intro. And it's like, But it's like, oh no, the intro gets cut off by them being attacked by Skeletor's army of fucking whatever monsters, and it's like, oh, okay.
Gay, gay rattlesnakes.
Yeah, but it's like
What,
it's kind of funny
whatever.
unintentionally, but also intentionally. But this is from 2002, so who cares? Because of course we're talking about the Netflix reboot, and so many people already were like, "Ugh, "Get woke, go broke." Netflix is. I canceled my Netflix, but then Netflix is doing a reboot of He-Man, and all of a sudden these exact same people are like, "Oh, He-Man! Oh, well, I can't wait!" And it's like, wait, I thought you canceled your Netflix.
Yeah,
What's
did you
going on?
cancel your Netflix? Somehow you got. Did you end up renewing your Netflix after you said you were never going to watch Netflix ever again?
Hey, what's going on, big guy? What's
I,
up with your Netflix subscription, big guy? Um,
hey there, character. What do you do for a
what do
living?
you do for a living,
Character.
character? Character? But
Character.
he, somebody mentioned there's somebody on Twitter I saw recently. At Undead Scribe said, "Looks like Clownfish TV was right. All the shorts of He-Man are probably from the first or second episode or flashbacks. This is the Tila show." And there's like some kind of clips of like, oh, Tila actually is the female character who takes over the show. It's not actually about
It's no longer about
He-Man.
He-Man. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you're caring about a He-Man reboot. Who gives a shit?
You're caring about a fucking He-Man side character.
Yeah, it's like
Apparently this is really bad for you.
this is for sure bad. But somebody mentioned, and I replied to that being like, "Oh, what's going on with this?" And I didn't really give that much of a shit either. I noticed a screen cap from the thing showed like tie back hair, black girl with I don't know, it looked exactly like the black girl from Invincible, the girlfriend Amber, the black version of the girlfriend Amber from Invincible. And it's like, oh, so I made a tweet about that. But somebody else, um, I feel like I should name them, but it's like, am I going to target them on accident? Because we've been getting kind of hammered lately by a lot of false
Yeah.
flags and a
Well,
lot of
by lately,
suspicious
I mean
shit.
our entire lives, our entire
Yeah, our
careers.
whole life. So I feel like if I name the, but I'll just say Henry uh, replied to
Hendry,
that,
help me out
not
here,
even on
Hendry.
Twitter, but just on our Discord, pointing out Clownfish wasn't right. They just read an article that said exactly what the show was going to be. All Clownfish did was copy paste that info into a video, which is um, that's basically what we really wanted to talk about was the whole new He-Man thing is like Kevin Smith is like, "Ooh, I oversaw this and I wrote some of the scripts," and then taking pictures of himself crying and being like, "This is how emotional I was when I saw things. I saw a phone commercial where some guy called his dad and he was very upset." And it's just like just this
Every
dumb shit.
single every single tweet he makes now is him crying
Yeah,
for
it's
one reason or another.
yeah, and it's like, is this what the He-Man show's supposed to be about? I don't even fucking know.
I hope not.
I sure hope, but at the same time, I don't care because I'm not going to watch it. I will
No.
never watch the new He-Man
And let's face
show.
it, they were banking on outrage.
Yeah,
It's literally the Streisand effect.
yeah,
Like I said, hey,
that's
it
what
looks
I
like I
think.
was right.
I
It
th-
looks like fucking what's his face, clownfish, clowness, Nippa TV
yes,
was wrong, and I was right.
yeah, that's the
In
thing is that
fact,
I started to really suspect and realize that that's the real marketing angle of the new He-Man show is not people who are interested in the nostalgia of the toys, which is all the original He-Man cartoon was. And again, we will get into that in a minute. But I think they made the new show just based on the outrage or potential outrage or the theoretical outrage of YouTubers who there's a bunch of YouTubers who literally their entire channel, their monetization platform is based off of them being mad about new cartoons based off of 80s properties that don't matter weren't interesting in the 80s and aren't interesting now. And there's a lot of people like Clownfish TV who just bank off of that. The entire point of their lives is to try to make money off of new updates of nostalgia properties. And that's it. That's the
And
entire
especially
basis of their
outrage. They're
channel.
selling outrage clicks. And they
Yeah.
might as well be selling those outrage clicks to the fucking companies that make these shows.
And that's the point of the new He-Man show, I think, more than any nostalgia anything. Like, I know that Kevin Smith is all into that 80s nostalgia shit, but I think bigger than that is some sort of attempt to cash in on the nostalgia, at least by fans who are preemptively angry about it, but who will click because they know, again, that Streisand effect. They understand now that these angry fans will still watch it so that they can talk about it on their YouTube channels.
Well, I
And
mean,
that's
worse
what
than
we're
that
doing
is
now,
that
too.
they'll now drive some SJW bucks their way, and
Yeah.
that's going to be probably only about as much traffic. And ultimately, the show's not really going to be that much of a success. But it went from a guaranteed failure to at least making its money back
Yeah, now it's,
because
well,
of
in a
the
way, it's
outrage
guaranteed
merchants.
success. But that's the thing, is that it's from both angles. The grift of it is from both directions. From the SJW woke people who are like, oh yeah, the show's really going woke. They're gonna kill off He-Man and replace it with a strong black woman or something like that. Like the false idea of that. Again, the show's not even out, and by the time we post this video, the show still won't be out for another week. So all these people who are saying what the show is for sure going to be about still haven't seen it. And then Kevin Smith is pushing his own thing about the show's actually going to be about this. And we don't know. And here's the difference, though. We're not going to pretend to know. And I don't really care. In
I'm
fact,
going to say this right here. You can go ahead, you people, you can go ahead and be angry. I'm not fucking trying to say you shouldn't be trying to
mhm,
fight this in the culture war. I'm saying you're already platforming this shit by
yeah,
doing this now.
you
But by
care you
paying
care
so
more about the
much
show than the
attention.
show even cares about the outrage. Again, it's I think a large portion of the existence of this show is banking on the outrage bucks to build its profile, but at the same time, some of these people, theoretically, this is pure conspiracy theory on our parts, but theoretically, people like Clownfish TV might be on the payroll of Netflix to be shilling for this show just on the outrage faction. And that's a very important and worthwhile question, worth asking, in my not so humble opinion.
Ooh,
Whoa.
wait, what?
But anyways, yeah. So Henry pointed out Clownfish wasn't right. He just copy and pasted basically their press release, which is something that like comic book resources would do, or Bleeding Cool would do, where they would just post that. They would just copy and paste a press release as news, and Clownfish TV basically did that, except on the aspect of being against it and being like, "Oh, can you believe this?" Because that's the new grift. Is the outrage market is something new comes out and you're mad about it, and a lot of people, unironically, I'm not making this up. I'm not accusing anyone at all of this. People are making money off of their YouTube channels being based entirely on some old 80s cartoon being rebooted, and they're pissed off preemptively without having seen a second of it. They just see trailers and they speculate. That's what the entire Star Wars fandom is entirely based off of. Whether it's pro or against Star Wars or the new properties or any of that shit, is that they're based off of making money off of the speculation of Star Wars, and a lot of them get pissed off whether they're pro Star Wars and they're like, "I'm pro Star Wars. I've been pro Star Wars for the last 2 years, and I can't believe they didn't give me a free ticket to the new Star Wars ride at Disneyland. This is
Or the
bullshit.
fucking what was it? The Zack Snyder fucking
Yeah,
Snyder cut of
that's
Justice
another
League.
aspect is we supported the Snyder cut of Justice League, and then he said he doesn't support us. We're supposed to push it, and again, it's all this outrage marketing. All of them are monetized. All of them are making money. And again, our channels in the past, we actually have a couple channels completely fully able to be monetized. We don't monetize them. Our previous channel was about able to be monetized, and it got false flagged. But the thing is that we were constantly swearing up and down we would never monetize it. And same for this channel. We would never monetize this channel.
We will never monetize this channel.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, what we're trying to get money for is for the actual work.
Yeah,
It's
that's
about the
that's a whole
work.
different thing, of course. But the thing is, it also is easy for us to say we'll never monetize this channel when we're not even close to 1,000 subscribers. But the thing is, we
We
actually
would
do
have.
hold to that principle,
We would
unironically.
have actually been at 1,000 subscribers
Yes.
if we had not been false flagged by your precious comics grift.
But we have other channels. Again, we have other channels that do have 1,000 subscribers, and we don't monetize them as we say we don't. We don't turn them into things that we could monetize. But again, if we had 1,000 subscribers to this channel, anyone's free to test us on this, of course. But if we had 1,000 subscribers to this channel, we would not monetize it ever. Under like not even 10 years from now, it would not be monetized, and I wouldn't even try to monetize it for other reasons, not because we don't believe in the principle of making money off any of that shit, but because YouTube I legitimately don't consider a stable platform. I don't really consider it a real platform, but I also don't
We
fucking
proved that. We already proved that.
yeah.
It's already been proven
The fact that we
by us.
basically were able to be monetized originally, and we didn't try, like, we were able to be monetized before they had the 1,000 subscriber cutoff. We were like close to 1,000 subscribers originally, and we intentionally burned our channel to the ground just to troll other people in a way, and to prove that other people were liars, and that they
Which we
didn't
then
believe in the
proved.
principles. That's whole other topics and shit though that we've covered in other videos. Especially videos behind our PayPig paywall. That's really where we make our money. Is that if you want to see we do like bonus extra videos that are on our Subscribe Star, and it's linked below. That's where we actually shill. The thing is, most of those people are people who are familiar with us, so we understand
That's
that.
still also in support of comics we're trying to make.
Yeah, most of that is about comics, and most of those videos are about our comics. And most of our subscribers, I think, are really just from our Come Town clips that we post, because those are our biggest traffic videos. And I don't really give a shit if people are like, "Oh, this isn't about Come Town." And most of those people are cool though about the shit that we post that's not about Come Town. It's kind of funny. Um, but regardless, we do have subscribers that just subscribe for our actual goofy ass content of us babbling here, which is fine. Um, but anyways, so the whole point of Clownfish TV being like, oh, I found out that the He-Man cartoon isn't really about He-Man. It's going to be about a woman. And it's like, you haven't seen the show yet. You haven't seen the show, so all you're doing is speculating, and you're doing that for money. And that's what all of these channels
And
about
also
nerd
promoting.
culture are about.
They're essentially promoting the very thing that they say they don't want to have. They're
Yes.
trying to destroy it, but they're also platforming it.
And that they're kind of in love with that. They're in love with the concept of just talking about dumb nerd culture. And it's all about like 80s nostalgia nerd culture too. It's always about
I mean, let's
like
face it, that was one of the last good decades before the boomers ruined everything.
yeah,
The final decade before boomers just destroyed
well,
every last
not just
hope.
boomers, but then Gen X came along and it was
Yes.
like, hold on, we have the dumbest shit ever
Hold on a
that we can
second,
get
because
into.
we can actually do everything the boomers are doing while then complaining about it.
And
It's
even
like,
worse,
then
like
why are you doing it?
here's the thing about the boomers are about selling and monetizing and marketing every shallow tiny thing, but Gen X was Nirvana to Linkin Park to Limp Bizkit. That's what
That
Gen
was, yeah,
X
it was selling
represents.
it. That was actually one of the things that he himself even proclaimed he didn't like having to do. That he had sold out the underground, and it's like, yeah, but you did do it.
You
You don't
did
like
that.
it, but you did it.
How come you did that? But
Like
yeah,
how
that's
you
in
did
in
that.
in a way that's really what this whole He-Man reboot is about. It's about repackaging and reselling your nostalgia for something that wasn't really interesting or worthwhile. But
Never was,
Clownfish
never will
TV
be.
has been milking this over and over again for I don't even know how long, weeks or something. Like the past several Clownfish TV videos have been here's Kevin Smith's Netflix He-Man series is about Tila. Says Screen Rant and it's like you haven't watched it yet. You are literally cashing on outrage. You don't really give a shit about what
It's
it's really about because
clickbait.
it's not out yet.
It's the exact level of clickbait
Yes.
that fucking BuzzFeed does.
And people are excited. People are like, "Oh yeah, this clickbait channel is so right." And it's like you haven't seen the show's not out yet. You're literally celebrating clickbait, and that is what the anti-SJW grift has been for really over a year now. The it's called the grift right, and it is completely fraudulent in every single way. None of it's real. Every supporter of it is fake and doesn't believe in a single real thing. All of them are just about monetizing outrage.
We proved that a few years ago already.
Yeah,
The
in
videos
fact,
that
yeah, we
cover that and prove it are years old at this point.
yeah, proven it quantifiably and documented it step by step. So
To the
again, we're
point where if
fucking
you deny it, if somebody out there is listening and they're like, "Oh, you don't really know. You're just an idiot now.
yeah.
You look like the biggest fucking moron to ever exist."
Yeah, we've proven it.
And
We've proven it to the
you are a
point
big
where it's
fucking
embarrassing
moron.
to you. To all of you listening that are angry that we're saying it, we've proven you wrong and we've not only shown you up, but
I
anyone you
understand your
like,
anger.
we've actually
I
shown them
understand
up and got them
why.
angry too.
I know why they're angry, but it is all their own fault.
We
We didn't have
basically
to. They didn't
raped
have to be
them.
this way.
We raped them, but not of their body.
On their soul. And then they raped themselves of their body after we raped their souls.
Why do they do sort of like Gavin McInnes where he shoved a fucking butt plug up his ass live on
Because he was so
video?
angry about about people who enjoy video games,
He was
people
so
who
mad about
enjoy
video
spending
games.
their leisure time how they please instead of how a fucking gay Canadian who shoves a butt plug up his ass tells them how to be a man.
Yeah,
He's so angry that they're not being a man the correct way.
he was sad that other males were not walking into the meat thresher that that he was saying that they should. Again, it's the great lie of modern society, and part of that is again this the whole the grift right and the outrage marketing, which is basically entirely owned by the right wing, which is a shame because the left wing um, has their
The
own
left
form of
wing's
that.
not. The left wing is not innocent.
Yeah, the left wing is more guilty. The thing is, the left wing owns the culture and the media essentially, and that all of that's true and that's been obvious. The thing is, we've been saying it for years, so it's old news. So every time you see somebody else on YouTube pointing it out like they've just realized it, they're trying to sell you something, and usually like the old saying goes, and it is an old saying now, is that if you don't know what they're selling, the product is you. And that's what outrage marketing is. And a lot of these people, like Clownfish TV, are banking on YouTube selling you to yourself. That's what he's trying to get money off of, and that's what he does get money off of. And a lot of other YouTubers do that and act like that they're honest at the same time, while they're also dishonest. But there's also a lot of other aspects of He-Man where though the original He-Man cartoon was a complete fraud. The He-Man cartoon technically doesn't exist. It was all a cartoon, a commercial cartoon to just sell you toys. And that's one thing I have to give massive credit to Doug TenNapel about, is that on Twitter he's been just fucking completely just raping people. Just fucking not just no remorse making fun of all of these people who are even mad about the YouTube, the new He-Man show, Netflix, and he's just been making fun of that. But a few other people. I have to give credit to some other people on our delightful Discord server, which we don't even link to because I don't give a shit. But someone says they said Tila had a fucking girlfriend and shit. No, they didn't have shit. Clownfish is retarded. The only prediction that could have been seen as accurate was that Tila would be an important character, which she was in the original show. Screen Rant's insider was clearly less retarded. That's another thing, by the way, is just like how the Star Wars Revolt fandom menace literally retarded, some of them like fucking baby murderers and child abusers who are just, haven't been caught yet. Some legitimate psychopaths in the fandom menace crowd. Not just grifters, because grifter is just somebody who sort of lies for money or attention. I'm talking about people who are actually like involved in criminal behavior and sending like docs and death threats and that kind of shit to people. That's what a lot of the fandom menace and also Comicsgate is directly involved in or responsible for or complicit in. But a lot of those people are always talking about how they have inside sources, and usually for things that never happen. Very QAnon shit, where it's like, in 2 weeks, Hillary Clinton's actually going to be executed. And to the point where some of them are like, it happened, Hillary Clinton was executed. It's like,
it actually
okay.
happened, but then they had to keep it secret.
Yeah,
so it's actually a secret shadow government conspiracy that's keeping you from knowing that she fake it. And it's like, all right.
There are
Sure.
legitimately people in QAnon,
okay.
and in that aspect, like Comicsgate and Fandom Menace, who actually believe that Donald Trump is president right now, and that like Joe Biden was fucking impeached, which is not actually what, like, people think impeached means that you're not made president anymore, which that's not really
you're like evicted from the office.
Yeah,
of the
from the White
president.
House and shit. Just all the shit. They believe all this completely fictional shit, but a lot of were pushing like months. I think a full year ago, many people in Fandom Menace and Comicsgate were pushing the story that Kathleen Kennedy was fired from Disney and the Star Wars franchise. And to this day, she's still working there. No, not even a fucking hint of her being demoted. It was all complete bullshit, but all of these people in the Star Wars fan revolt community were completely pushing that their inside sources were telling them, and that they've just confirmed and all this shit.
Anonymous secret insider sources.
Yeah, and it was just
Like,
bullshit lie after bullshit lie. And the same thing is happening now with the He-Man thing, where people are talking about, like Clownfish TV is talking about how he has these inside sources, or he knows somebody, or Screen Rant has an inside source, and all these other people have an inside source about what the new... And again, it's He-Man. It's the dumbest shit ever.
Man.
It doesn't matter. It never will matter. It never would have mattered. But these people, like, again, these fandom people, Clownfish TV is just an example. There's a bunch of other people. But a bunch of them insisted that this has to matter when none of it does. It's just another Netflix reboot. That fucking... I wouldn't have even noticed.
Netflix reboot. They've done it to Scooby-Doo. I don't know how many times.
Yeah, they're talking about doing it yet again with Velma. They're going to give Velma another show. And it's like, she's had like 10 just over the past decade or something.
Her own shows, and nobody really watches them.
Yeah. So
nobody
again,
should either.
More comments. Clownfish TV, Master of the Universe Revelation. Great title, by the way. The one of the most
Ari, yeah,
overused fucking
yes,
titles.
Ari something, especially the word revelation just
Yes.
by itself,
Yeah.
overused as fuck.
Yeah, it's completely like when you see something that says revelation and like colon revelation, whatever it is, you know it's throwaway.
Suck
Nobody
my
gave a
col,
shit.
suck my colon revelation.
Yes.
Suck
Um,
dictionary.
Screen Rant's Insider was clearly less retarded and actually was accurate, so Clownfish loses credit once again. And
Wow. How
Clownfish
do
is
you fuck
like,
that? How do you fuck that up?
how do you fuck that up? But Masters of the Universe Revelation is exactly what we said it was. And again, the show's not out yet, so you don't know. These people are saying all this shit like they totally know the show's not out yet, so
We
nobody knows.
absolutely called this. No, you didn't call anything yet.
Yeah,
You
the
didn't call a damn
same
thing.
exact same thing happened with the Star Wars Mandalorian. Or it was just called the Mandalorian, but it was in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, it's Star Wars Mandalorian.
Yeah,
Whatever.
and it was like episode 4 introduced this new like
Wasn't it
strong chick character.
Episode 2 or 3, actually.
Yeah, it was like 2, and I think it was 4, but it was
Whatever.
3 at the earliest though.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been
Yeah,
over a year.
introduces what's her face? Fucking
Gina Carano.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Gina Carano was introduced as a character. As she's like
Gina.
a muscular chick. I think she was a UFC fighter,
Yeah, she's
and
a like straight up actual legitimate UFC.
yeah, she looks pretty swole in general. That's why she was cast, I assume. And they introduced her, and she shows up in like episode 3 or 4 of the first season of The Mandalorian, which is a decent show. I liked it. Uh,
Yes, especially for Star Wars nowadays. Holy
yeah,
fuck.
yeah, a lot of Star. And you know what though? The Solo movie, I thought that was okay, but I have no
Yeah,
expectations for
okay.
that. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, it was okay. I don't really care anyway.
Yeah, I'm basically indifferent to it. So I watched and it was like, oh, that wasn't painful. The Last Jedi I thought sucked
I
because
still haven't seen all of The Last Jedi. I still have
yeah,
not watched all of that.
and then the
I
Last
just choose not to.
Skywalker or whatever. I don't know
The
what the
last
latest.
Sky, The Last Skywalker, whatever the fuck it's called. I have
Yeah,
not watched that at all.
I haven't seen it
I
yet
actually
either. Yeah,
stick to my
I
guns.
don't give a
Unlike
shit.
a lot of
Yeah,
these other people who you are listening to, that
yeah.
you are finding out about in our audience, who's like, oh, these fucking people, oh,
Yeah,
they
people who
called
are
it.
just angry right off the bat before they've seen it. People are like, oh, the solo movies get more like Solo. It's terrible. Meanwhile, that's like the movie isn't even out for 6 months, so nobody's seen it. Nobody knows what it's like. And then it comes out and it's like, oh, that's okay. Actually, it wasn't that bad. But
They're completely
people were
wrong.
legitimately monetizing their entire channels based off of how much they hated a movie or TV show that hadn't been out yet. But again, the same thing happened with The Mandalorian, where Gina Carano shows up in an episode as a new character, and they're like, "Oh, the show just went woke. It's terrible. This is the shit. It's fucking shit. It's terrible." And
I think it
it's
was
like, no,
what was it, the drunk reviewer guy? Fucking,
oh yeah,
that
the
was his
critical
first,
drinker,
whatever. That
whatever,
was his
something like that.
first reaction. I watch a lot of his other fucking videos. They're okay. But
Yeah.
that was his first fucking reaction. It was like, oh, it's going woke and the show is officially ruined. And it's like, is it? Is that really
And
what's
that
going to, is that really
episode
what
was
changed everything?
yeah, that episode was pretty decent for, the show, if you're into The Mandalorian, which, it's by Jon Favreau, and he directed, and he was basically the driver of the show. And it's a decent enough show, it's not the greatest show, it's not, if you're even going to say, like, Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, or even
Yeah.
compare it to The Wire or The Sopranos or whatever, I would say The Mandalorian is just a fun show. Even if you're not into Star Wars, just in general, there's fun, and you have to know anything about
Do
Star
you like
Wars.
having
Actually,
fun? Oh, I guess you don't. I
yeah,
guess you people don't like having fun.
yeah, and that's the thing is that okay. So this strong chick shows up in episode 3 or 4, and all of a sudden, all these YouTube channels are immediately jumping onto a bandwagon that had not existed just out of nowhere. It didn't exist. They immediately started, and they're immediately starting this bandwagon about how much they hate it. And really, there was nothing wrong with the episode. And the rest of the show didn't derail or anything. The rest of the show was still good. In fact, it kind of picked up at the final couple of episodes, too. So, again, that's what the whole grift is based off of. Just it's called outrage marketing, and we didn't come up with that term. I heard it, and it's completely fitting, and that's what the new He-Man show is based off of. Yeah, somebody else again on our Discord mentioning, I never want to watch the show, but all these retards complaining about how it's bad, how bad it's going to be again without still not even out yet. Makes me want to watch it. Surely, if the spurgiest people on the planet think it's bad, it must be good. Which might be part of the secret plan. Like people like Clownfish TV might be getting the payoff to convince people that if Clownfish TV is all pissed off about it, maybe it's good or interesting, or just in general the whole raising its profile. Just in general, if people are talking about it, good or bad, people are more likely to even have heard about it. So it's possible that Clownfish TV is getting a payoff from that. I don't know for sure. I'm just saying it's possible.
It doesn't matter to me either
Yeah.
way. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's
Like, it
indifferent to
doesn't
me
matter.
because if they're really talking about it that much, you might as well be getting paid. And the thing is, if you're not getting paid by Netflix, it doesn't matter because they are getting paid by YouTube. Clownfish TV is getting paid for pretending to be mad about He-Man in a way where you can tell he doesn't give a shit. Clownfish TV does not care for even 1 second.
He cares about as much as the people who made the toys.
Yeah, and
The people
and
who made the
that's
Transformers toys.
yeah, that's the reality of the situation, is that it's all about making the money based off of the concept of either being so into it that it's like, oh yeah, it's sharing my ideals, or it's antithetical to my ideals. And then again, that's what the outrage marketing is based off of. Um, they're so attached to this idea of He-Man being sidelined, but what if he's there the whole time? It's just another character. Again, this somebody pointing this out in our Discord. Um, it's just another character who's doing something important as well. Why does it have to be the He-Man show 100% on screen all the time? Why are they so attached to that retarded point? Do they get mad when Lord of the Rings cuts away from Frodo and Sam? And then pointing out again, just like we were mentioning earlier, the Mandalorian is going. A woman entered the story, which is one. That's one of the things, is that many of these anti-SJW grifters who don't actually believe in anything, they're just about getting your clicks so that they can make
they
money.
would be SJWs themselves if they could find
Yes.
some kind of angle to run.
Yeah, most of these people you think are anti-SJW are completely, not only fully on board of or fully on board SJW beliefs, but most of them were anti-Trump, like they're never Trumpers and that kind of shit in practice. Before, some of them were completely anti-Trump. Then Trump got elected, and they acted like that they were getting oppressed for being pro-Trump when they never were. And in fact, people who knew them in private were like, yeah, this guy was completely against Trump. Ethan Van Sciver is one of the prime examples where his own friends were like, yeah, he was talking constantly about how much he was against Trump, and Trump was an idiot, and he was against
Trump is dangerous
Trump
for America.
Yeah. And then Trump gets elected, and they're like, oh, I'm so pro-Trump that I'm getting oppressed by the woke crowd. And it's like, no, you weren't. Like, even his own, like, lefty people who knew him were like, no, you weren't. What are you talking about?
Why are you lying?
Yeah. Why the fuck you lying? Why are you always lying? Let's see. Somebody else replies to Clownfish TV saying, "Fair point, but considering how public he made Kevin Smith made this issue, he really does feel like a stab in the back, especially since he didn't just do it to you guys again. Like it's a personal attack. Like fucking Kevin Smith directly wanted to hurt Clownfish TV. So again, this is part of the grift. This is part of the great lie that people willingly buy into all the time. If you're in any way a supporter of these channels, you are a supporter of pathological liars who are just milking you for money, and you're willingly doing it. You want to be ripped off. You're just that kind of person.
And in which case, you're also. I know they'll also be angry that we call them out on that. It's like, how dare you say this about me?
That means we're right. When they get mad about it, that means we're right. That never happened before unless we're right.
It's proof of it.
Yeah, it is the proof. That's the end right there.
And I'm really tired of these fucking faggots, too.
Yeah.
I want them
There's
gone.
a lot of other people. Let's see. Leo Convoy's Reviews, I think, is some other person who's like, ooh, and then fucking...
Never heard of it. Never heard of her.
Never heard of him. Yeah, never heard of her. Next. E-Lion mentions the fucking... It's just a horrible butchering of his name. Who cares? I bet you could go back to the original Masters of the Universe cartoons and find episodes where Teela rescues He-Man in certain situations, leak those scripts as if they were the new show, get these YouTubers to spurg, and then point them to the original shows. Just saying that as a joke, of course, because...
Then you'd get blocked. They would block you.
Yeah, they would block you. In fact, they have several of them, like Clownfish TV, would block somebody for just for doing that. Ethan Van Sciver has blocked multiple people, even people who are like anti them. I noticed like Comic Book Hut has blocked dozens and dozens of people just for proving him wrong. So and again, if you're like, who's Comic Book Hut? Exactly. So
case closed.
Yeah. Henry mentions Kevin Smith is not a He-Man fan, and neither are they, and neither am I. But at least I'm not a fraud. Second Street J says, why do people pretend to be He-Man fans? It's a show for babies, which is actually a really good point. Kaiser Crimson says, despite their physical age, although these CG adjacent people, Comicsgate adjacent people, stopped mentally aging when they were still children, which is not only true, but it's a perfect description of people like Ethan Van Sciver and Richard C. Meyer. Second Street Jay mentions, watch 1 minute of the original show. This is bizarre, repetitive, and dumb, but it's all a lot of toys, so it must be good. Shunyongo.
That's honestly the truth for Transformers. I know there's a lot of people who get very butt blasted over that.
That's the thing about the 80s.
Transformers made my entire childhood.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Completely glossed over is that in the 80s, most of the cartoons that were made as toys first, and not just toys first, but boardroom toys. In fact, that's one of the things about the movie Big that gets overlooked is he goes to work for a company and just sitting in a boardroom meeting, and they're like, oh, this toy turns into another toy. And the guy's like, what if it turned into a robot instead? And they're like, what? And they're like, that's genius. And it's like, that's the reality of toy companies in that era, is that it was just that level of like childish idiocy.
And also, what was it? Fucking just cynicism.
Yeah, a massive amount of... That's what He-Man was built on originally, was cynicism. And anyone who doesn't know that doesn't care. They don't really.
That's why the cartoons always look cheap. The cartoons were animated as simply as possible because they knew kids would watch anything that was a cartoon.
I have a Korean in a tiger cage who can draw a fucking dog with a cape. But that's another thing, is that the like when we were in the 80s, like we're the actual market for this. We were in the 80s growing up and looking at this stuff, and this is the shit that was marketed to us. Transformers, which was cool. He-Man, which was fucking a toy. G.I. Joe, which had actually, to be honest, the best toys, I thought, but mainly
Yeah, GI
because they had the
Joe. GI
bats, which
Joe
I
had
thought
those.
was the coolest
What were
shit
they?
ever.
There was those Cobra vehicles that were like buzzsaw
Yeah.
cars, and it was like, oh, this is fucking sweet. And
Anything
then the
with like a
bat.
spring-loaded projectile, it
I've
was the
forgotten
coolest
what they
thing
were
ever.
called. The bats.
Yeah. The
You would
bats were
think
those
from the name,
androids that had the holographic chest plate thingy. I was like, oh,
those were
that's the
cool.
coolest thing ever. And it turns out that wasn't that fucking elaborate to even make, but it just looked
It
so
looked great.
cool.
It looked great, and I
Yeah.
like beating up. I like beating up our sister's Barbie dolls.
Yes. Even
Taking
though
the
the Barbie
fucking
dolls were
Malibu,
bigger, they were physically larger. But again,
taking the
that's sort of
Malibu, but still,
the manlet
but still,
supremacy of it.
yes, taking the fucking Barbie doll and fucking smashing them off of a fucking cliff,
Yes.
and then blowing them up with missiles.
With a gun and just shooting a Barbie doll in the face and like trying to fucking literally rip the Barbie doll apart and being like, "Oh, the rubber parts are coming off," and you could see the
Oh, this is
joints
made
underneath,
of.
and it's like,
It's
"Oh
made out
shit,
of rubber. Oh,
that's
this is
incredible."
kind of a well-made toy
But
compared
but
to
I also
a rubber band
remember
inside plastic.
one time, very very young, very long ago, me and you, both in the bathtub. And I remember I had a G.I. Joe. I don't remember which one. It may have been a Bat. I remember just twisting the waist so many times
Yeah, the rubber band.
that the rubber band connecting the top half to the fucking bottom half snapped and the whole thing broke in half. And it's like, oh, that's how they work. That's interesting. But then I was also like, oh, this is broken now. What the fuck am I supposed to do with this?
I'm not gonna play with this anymore. It's
Weren't we
broken.
at Grandma's house when I did that too?
I don't remember.
I'm sure
Bathtub?
Grandma didn't give a shit, of
I
course,
don't
because
know.
she didn't
Was
think
I
of
in
that.
the
But
bathtub? No,
but
Grandma's not gonna care that we destroyed G.I.
as
Joes.
long as you don't try and put it down the drain, which I'm sure we didn't. I'm sure we came out and was like, "Oh,
I
I
would
broke the GI
sure hope.
Joe," and it's
I
like,
sure
okay.
hope not. That's like a comic skate move.
But you know what happened was, I don't think it was Grandma or Grandpa who told us this, but it was Mom. I'm sure it was Mom who told us this, that our uncle, well, one of our uncles, had like the original
Oh
GI
yeah,
Joes that were
that's
like
right.
12 inches tall,
I
and they're
saw one of
like,
those. Yeah.
yeah, and they're like, yeah, he put an M80 inside it just to blow it up, just see what happens. I was like, that sounds fucking awesome. And you couldn't do that with the 80s GI Joes, but
Just
look,
imagine telling that to somebody who is a collector of the original GI
yeah,
Joes,
yeah,
that they fucking
exactly.
just
They would be fucking
destroyed one.
crying. They'd be like, I can't believe you blew up. And it's like, that would
They'd
be
be
worth hundreds of dollars. Who gives a
a
shit?
50-year-old man busting down into
Yeah.
tears
They
because you broke a toy.
Yeah, a toy.
But back
That's all
then,
this comes down to. That's all the He-Man things come down to is fucking baby toys. Just like Bro Team says, you're writing about baby toys. And that's really all it is. That's all He-Man is. That's all the new He-Man cartoon is. That's all the old He-Man cartoon is. That's all the He-Man cartoon from 2002, which you can find for free on YouTube is. It's all baby toys. That's it. That's all it ever was meant to
you
be.
know what matters more is fucking Powerpuff Girls, and that got a fucking leaked script. And that was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is going to be a fucking disaster.
That,
But I'm not going to platform it.
Yeah, the original Powerpuff Girls was funny,
It
and
was a legitimately better show.
here's
Better.
why. There's an element of subversiveness to it, but not like disgusting, nauseating, like
Well, yeah, not it's
how to
not
sexually violate your
yeah,
child.
cultural
Subversive.
Marxist subversiveness. It
Yeah,
was subversive for a kids' cartoon, which
yeah.
is great.
In the same way that Rocco's Modern Life was, where
Yes.
it's like there was an entire episode of Powerpuff Girls that was literally just the movie The Big Lebowski in like a fucking 25-minute cartoon version that was not only work safe, but one of the jokes was like the mayor's like, what is it that makes a man? And the Powerpuff Girls are like, yeah, exactly.
This is
Whereas
the
in the
willingness to
original
do
movie,
whatever it is, whatever it takes, no matter how difficult.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, in the original movie, it's like it was the Big Lebowski being like, "What is it makes a man? Is it the strength to do what's right?" And then fucking the dude goes, "Yeah, that and a pair of testicles," which is the unspoken joke of the Powerpuff Girls episode. But at the same time, it like it doesn't ruin it for kid. Like if you're a kid and don't get it, it doesn't ruin it. It doesn't mean anything. But later you watch it maybe, and you're like, oh, okay, I get that joke. So that's
Oh.
funny. That's also for adults while being for kids. Also, every time they would beat up Mojo Jojo and smash his like helmet, and it
Oh
would
yeah, and it's
expose his brain, it was like disgusting, but in a funny way that wasn't actually disgusting.
not like you ever had brain damage from that.
Yeah, or like blood, or there would occasionally be a little bit of blood, but again, it was like cartoony, even
Well,
beyond the most silliest Mortal
two of the
Kombat shit.
episodes that I think of most often. I mean, one of them is obviously the one where it's like the professor's trying to teach them, oh, spiders are just part of nature, and you can't be disgusted or try and attack them or anything like that. And then they're trapped inside of a giant spider made of tiny spiders, and Bubbles just going gross, 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 gross.
There's
And
also
then
the
they
episode
smash
where
it
where
to pieces, and then the fucking professor sees a little spider, and he crushes it, and is like, "Wait, you told us not to kill bugs," and he's like, "I just hate spiders."
yeah,
And
there's
then,
also that one episode where Bubbles just doesn't she go into like the X-Men Danger Room where it's like the training simulation, and she's just savagely beating people so much that they're just being ripped to shreds.
I
She's
don't remember
completely
that.
losing her shit. It's sort of like she goes full cola cult, like that wonderful classic Rescue
Speaking
Rangers
of other
episode.
legitimately good TV shows,
Yes.
speaking of,
See, that's the thing. Those were shows that were made to be shows, not cartoon toy lines.
yeah, not a
Not
toy line.
not toy lines.
The toy line came after.
Yeah, exactly.
But also the other episode that was so great from Powerpuff Girls was the feminist episode where it's like, oh, the feminist bank robber, and
That's
she's
right.
like,
They beat
I'm
the
doing
shit
this.
out of her.
Yes, they're like, actually, Susan B. Anthony was a feminist, and she refused to even get a lighter sentence. They said because she's a woman,
Hmm.
she was not going to be punished for what she did, being having been illegal, and she refused. And then they pound the fucking dog shit
They
out of her.
they fucking just shit hammer that poor chick. And the thing is, you could say that's
Haha.
mansplaining because the show was made ultimately by a guy, but I'm sure it had women writing for it, and it didn't matter back then. See, that's one of the things we pointed out back in the years ago, like in like 2014, 2015, probably earlier than that too, is that it didn't matter. The whole feminist angle didn't matter because women were always writing for these shows. So the whole fucking
But that's also
diversity
something
cause wasn't
that
real.
now is something you can't do anymore.
Yeah,
Just can't.
now they've made it so they force women into these roles where women are just not qualified and they suck and they're unfunny and they're
Well,
losers.
they're finding all these women who have like a degree in psychology
Yeah,
to write episodes for fucking Rick and Morty, where Rick and Morty go, fucking Rick has to go to family therapy.
that was the Pickle Rick episode.
Yeah,
Funniest
yes, that was
shit I've ever seen.
the award-winning Pickle Rick
Yeah,
episode,
yeah,
the
and that's the
Emmy
thing. That's the
award-winning
reality
Pickle Rick
reality of it.
episode.
And
Reality, reality.
here's actually a great point. Is actually Tyrannosaur Roosevelt mentions something that is kind of the impetus for us doing this video. Is mentions an episode of The Toys That Made Us, which was a Netflix show also. Um, the Toys That Made Us episode on He-Man is great. Really shows what a retarded mess the entire concept was from the start. Like, the whole reason He-Man rides a giant tiger is because they took a pre-existing tiger toy from a different line in a larger scale and said, fuck it, paint it green and put a saddle on it. He rides a tiger now. And Henry mentions in response, every single Transformer is just a random Japanese toy Hasbro bought at a trade show. And Tyrannosaur Roosevelt says also, even the name Masters of the Universe and the catchphrase "I have the power" were the results of retarded boardroom logic. Marketing tests showed that kids responded positively to the words "master" and "power," so that's what they used. And Shanyogo says they used it twice, in fact. By the power of Grayskull, I have the power.
Well,
And
he has the power to have the
he has the
power.
power to
This is
have all the powers that he wants.
this is the power of the
The
power.
power. So yeah, here I wanted to end on a
Man, all you
webcomic.
fucking loser faggots who really pretend like you want to see the new He-Man show.
Yeah.
How dare you not make the best He-Man show that I could? You're fucking
That's
losers.
what you're
You
basing that off of.
deserve to be mocked forever.
You're basing it off of empty boardroom consumerism. In fact, here I can, okay, 150%. And I can even leave the thing on the screen. We'll end on this note is this webcomic, in fact, where, let's see, it starts, and I'll read this for if you're not looking at the screen, but if you're looking at the screen, you can see the comic right now. The 80s, and it's some guy with a mullet and a sweet mustache in a boardroom saying, "Gentlemen, it's called a cat morpher, TM. You see, first it's a cute little kitty cat, and but pull here and twist there, and it becomes a gnarly robot, and it's like a cat robot with a fucking laser gun in its hand or some shit."
The
And
laser cat. It's basically a laser cat.
laser cat, I got bad news for you. I just started using laser cats again. But this guy smoking a cigarette, probably chain smoking, is like, that may be the single dumbest thing I've ever seen. And the other guy, who has the fucking toy in his hand with the mullet and the mustache, is like, could be, but focus groups gave it an 80%, 87% favorability rating. Not 80%, but
Not a 47,
87%.
not
Yeah.
47%, like Voyager shields.
Or Voyager photon torpedo amounts.
I don't know if it wasn't 47 photon
They used
torpedoes at some point.
47% multiple times in Voyager, but the yeah, not 80%, not in the low 80s, but the high 80s. That's pretty good. That's better than regular 80s. But and of course this takes place in the 80s. But anyway, so yeah, it's got an 87% favorability rating. So, some other guys like, all right, then let's get these damn things into production development immediately. I want to see them on shelves by the end of July. Mr. Floyd, call our friends at Funimation or Funivision. Huge difference.
Fun, Funivision.
Yeah, Funivision. See if they want to turn this into a cartoon. It's like very perfunctory, the same way that Transformers and He-Man was made, of course. And then I like this very elaborate scene in a bar with like chicks with off the shoulder look, which is very retro, very delightful. Some guy, this guy drinking B&J, Bartles and James. So
Ooh,
80s.
it's like Royal Crown Cola.
Yeah, and the TV in the corner, the old knob TV up here in the corner says Remington Steel will be right back. Oh boy, Remington Steel.
Oh, remember that show Remington Steel? Wow, that was a
Yeah.
classic 80s TV show.
No.
And totally not another shitty knockoff murder mystery
S-
investigation
Such a
show.
shitty show that they didn't even really run reruns of it. Fucking
No.
nobody gave a shit. They would fucking do reruns of Dynasty and other
It
dumb
reminds
shit.
me of when we would watch TNG in the middle of the night, and after every single episode, they'd only
The
one
Fall
air one
Guy.
episode of TNG, and then they'd run the Fall
Yeah,
Guys
that was a
or whatever
seven.
the
The,
fuck.
the Fall Guy, and it was a '70s show. It was about a stuntman who was like hired to do some shit, like in real to be an A team or some shit. It's just like, who gives a fuck. But
Like MacGyver, but he's a stuntman.
yeah, but the MacGyver, of course, though, is pure '80s. But
It was the Dukes of Hazzard, but without the cool car.
the sad thing is anything that I could visually identify that '70s stock, and if I
Mhm.
even saw it, I was like, no, I'm not watching this. I'm not fucking
The
watching
exact
'70s shit.
desaturated, washed out color,
Yeah, just painful shit.
which you
Anyways,
could distinctly tell from the 80s. The 80s had like there was a little more blue saturated shows in the
yeah,
80s, I
like the
think.
'70s was very washed out and like almost lower frame rate. I don't know. It's hard to describe. It was
Well,
like
a little
lower
blurrier.
resolution film.
Seems like there's more orange. I don't know.
Yeah, it was duller colored, you could tell, by just the 70s. And the 80s were slightly
Color
less.
picture too, a bit more of a blurry picture, and the '80s were a little sharper.
Yeah, yeah, you could. That's another way you could tell it was just, I don't know, kind of that
And yeah,
resolution in a way.
almost anything, and then yeah, almost anything from the '70s. It was like, I'm not watching this shit.
Yeah, like fucking Gilligan's
He-Man,
Island. It's like,
yeah, oh
oh
yeah,
fuck no.
wasn't Gilligan's Island from the fucking '60s or
No,
something?
well, it looked 60s
Actually, it looked like
comparatively,
it was
but
from
no, that was
Gilligan's Island. I thought
70s.
that shit was from the '50s or something.
Yeah, it might as well have been. The way I would look at it, it was like all
Yeah,
this just old shit. And the funny thing is, by comparison, fucking Looney Tunes from the 50s and 60s looked like they were just made yesterday. I couldn't tell.
yeah,
I
and the
straight up couldn't tell.
some of them were from the '40s, and you would swear
Yeah.
they had been made the day before.
Yeah,
And
to me
the
there was no
animation
difference.
quality.
It was fucking it was completely timeless. It was great.
That's one thing that definitely spoiled us for TV too. I
Yeah.
was thinking about like a bunch of TV shows that I loved that I actually legitimately loved and have held up. And it's like, I was kind of spoiled back then because there were so
Well,
many good things we
again,
watched.
we're talking about the 80s, fucking like He-Man and that kind of shit. Like He-Man and Transformers wasn't a bad cartoon either. In fact, He-Man had okay
I would say
animation for the time too, but
Transformers is overrated, but yeah, it's
yeah.
not terrible.
Transformers at least looked more interesting design wise, but here's the thing. When you're in the 80s, you wouldn't brag about how you watched He Man or the Transformers. You would
No,
brag about how you saw fucking Predator or Terminator or fucking Robocop. Something where people's heads are getting fucking blown apart. You wouldn't brag about watching a cartoon.
I remember that specifically. We would gather to try and watch any R-rated movie if we got the chance.
Yes.
Like somebody had rented Child's Play, and it's
Yeah,
like, oh,
and
check this
usually
out,
that
it's a
shit would
fucking
horrify
serial
me.
killer.
I would be fucking nauseated. Like I would have to look away. Like fucking even RoboCop, I would have to look away and that kind of shit. I was like, oh, it's really violent. Oh shit. But still, I would be like, yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, I
And
watched
everyone else
RoboCop.
would be bragging about how like, oh, you see RoboCop? Do you see the part where they shoot? Like I remember being in third grade or something, and a girl was being like, oh, do you remember that part in RoboCop where he gets shot in the dick? I was like, RoboCop got shot in the dick? Yeah, I guess I remember that when they're all shooting him. And turns out, no, she meant the part where RoboCop shoots the guy in the dick. It's like, oh, like it took me years to
Fucking,
realize she
I had
meant that.
forgotten because of all the
This
other people
fellow
who get shot.
9-year-old was referring to that.
A 9-year-old girl was
Yeah,
talking about the part in RoboCop.
that's the fucking 80s. That's what the 80s was really like. Not watching fucking He-Man. Now, here's the thing.
Or
Teenage Mutant Ninja
MLP, the
Turtles was
original
cool. But
Gen 1 MLP. It's like,
Teenage
no.
Mutant Ninja Turtles had that implied
Nuts.
violence to it, though.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was good.
Yeah, that was actually cool. Because, again, that wasn't made for a toy. That wasn't a toy line that was turned into a cartoon. That was a cartoon made off of a comic book that became a toy line just because it was way too fucking successful. And in a way, I think G.I. Joe was that too, where G.I. Joe was a bunch of
I
other.
think G.I.
G.I. Joe
Joe,
was a bunch of other shit in a long time ago. I think it was toys originally, but still.
yeah. I think G.I. Joe was toys first.
Yeah. But
Go
going
eventually
back
too.
decades before the 80s, there was not fucking just 80s shit.
At the
Um,
very least, there's some watchable shit that came out of that.
I mean, to be honest, the G.I. Joe 80s cartoon probably was one of the earliest examples of a reboot that really took off. And we don't really accept it as that. No, nobody really thinks about it that way, but it is that. And there's all sorts of other cartoons I can think of that are just better, too, that don't get brought up. Like Ren and Stimpy was like fucking one of the earliest like really subversive bizarre fucking things. But when I really think of a subversive cartoon that was on Nickelodeon, because like we were talking about fucking all these shitty ass 70s shows like Gilligan's Island, that would be on Nick at Night. But Nick at Night was just a fucking reminder of how they ran out of cartoons, so they were airing shit for old boomers and fucking losers and that kind of shit. And it just annoyed and it just depressed me to see shit on Nickelodeon that wasn't a cartoon because it meant the fun time was over, time for loser boomer shit. But I remember being like infatuated with Rocko's Modern Life because that was subversive in a way that was so much smarter, I thought, than Ren and Stimpy. Like, Ren and Stimpy was really subversive and bizarre and creepy and crazy, where it could go anywhere and it was
That was by
confusing and that kind
design.
of shit.
That was clearly the by design because it was on
Yes.
MTV.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like an MTV cartoon, but they would play it on Nickelodeon. But Rocco's Modern Life I thought was way more subversive. And again, we're not going to really get into this, but it was more like a sitcom like The Simpsons where it was about a consistent thing, whereas fucking Ren and Stimpy could be literally about nothing. And it could go anywhere and make no sense at all for just out of fucking nowhere. Whereas Rocko's Modern Life was about an Australian wallaby who moved into America and he had these goofy neighbors and shit. And that would be the basis for the whole thing. So that again, that's fucking animation that I actually remember with some fondness. And again, that was after the '80s. The '80s had some good shit too, of course, but when it came to the actual narrative thrust of them, the '80s mostly were just toy commercials. And this webcomic, again, that we're going into, I actually remember, there's the poster on the right that says Party with Spuds. I remember Spuds McKenzie way more fondly than I remember Remington Steele or other '80s shows. Spuds McKenzie was cool.
Wasn't that the Budweiser fucking
Yes.
mascot?
And again, because it was for beer. And I remember being like
I was gonna say it's a
8 or 9
cartoon dog,
years
but
old.
it's actually just straight up a regular dog.
Yeah, it was just a dog. I remember being eight or
Just a
9 years
dog.
old though, and I don't know, wasn't there like our one of our sisters' dads, something like that,
Yeah.
had like a Bud Light, and I was like, oh, what's that like? Because I was like, is that going to be like Coke? And I was like, go ahead and try it, and I sip it, and it's like, just like in fucking classic movie Shazam, it's like this tastes like literal vomit.
It's actual vomit.
But it really was. It was like the most disgusting thing. I was like, how does
I
anyone want to drink this? I didn't and it was one of the greatest aversions to alcohol I've ever had in my
Yes.
entire life.
Yes.
Was like an older guy being like, go ahead, sip this beer. And then the kid sips it. And it's like, I do not fucking want this. And it's actually great. That's one of the things in the '80s you don't get in pretty much any other decade, is that a fucking grown up would give a kid a sip of beer just so that the kid understands that they don't fucking want it. You can't do that anymore. It would be considered like a form of rape or something these days.
It also reminds me of that part in National Lampoon's Vacation after they crash the fucking station wagon.
Yeah.
It gives Rusty a fucking can of beer and he just chugs the whole thing immediately. It's like,
Which,
ha ha.
yeah, when I saw that, that's hilarious because that would never happen. Fucking,
No.
I would be like, I wouldn't even be able to get halfway through that. What the fuck is this about?
I get sick.
But
Also, that one can would get me so drunk at that
yeah,
body weight.
be like
Like a 10-year-old.
projectile vomiting at that point.
I'd be fucking a
Again,
10-year-old.
that movie was a farce, though. That's the whole point.
That movie's great.
Yeah, a wonderful classic farce. Anyways, so back to this webcomic though, is that they're at a bar. There's fucking chicks just hanging out. They're all just hanging out, very '80s, feathered hair and all that shit. And the guy's like, "You all right there, Derek?" Very '80s
Derek.
name, I guess.
Derek.
And Derek is like, "I don't know. It seems like the shit we sell gets more and more ridiculous each year. I guess I'm just not cynical enough to believe anyone will fall for it this time." And then 25 years later at MorphCon, which is like Power Morphicon, again, like fucking the
If you
real
want to talk
thing.
about the stupidest thing ever,
The
there
sort
are
of thing that
people who take
Linkara
that
would go
shit
to.
so serious. That was the thing that really just blew my mind, was finding out that was real. Oh, somebody's actually trying to make an actual history of Power Rangers like there's anything to even dissect
And then
there.
he's yelling at his fans for
He's
being
so angry.
impatient.
He's so angry at his fans for expecting him to finish it because they don't understand he's doing this for love.
It'll be ready when it's ready. Great work ethic.
Great, it's a great work.
Great work ethic.
The
But yeah,
great Iron
it's
Liz.
actually great. This like whole sort of panel here, 25 years later, is a great elaborate kind of panel.
Like
It's like
twist,
coming
twisty
summer
do.
2012, MorphCon 2011 goes to show how old this is. Coming summer 2012, Michael Bay's Cat Morphers meet Sean Ward, original voice of Pertron, and just all these cosplayers and people just standing around, and this fucking chick, and Cat Morphers, comics, DVDs, toys, comics, fucking this and that, and just like cosplayers with the goofy ass shit just all over the place. And then
Cosplaying, which is one of the dumbest things ever.
yes, yeah, we're old enough to remember when cosplaying was not something that paid models did. Whenever you see like fucking cosplay by some hot chick, she's a paid model, and most people are so stupid they don't even know that. But anyways,
She's either a paid model or she got a shitload of money up front. Basically, a paid model. But there's two kinds of paid models. There are the ones that are paid by the actual company themselves, and then there are the other ones that are basically cam whores.
yeah, it's sort of like
It's the
that
cam
wonderful.
whores who you will be told by these nerds that, oh, she actually clearly has a lot of love for the project.
She
Look how
really
much love
cares.
she put
She's
into
in it
her
for the
costume.
she's in it for the passion of the fandom. It's like no, she's not. You're
Then you go ahead
so
and
many
ask
people
her.
delude themselves so
And
easily
then
about
that's
this
where we
shit.
get to the meme where all these people are asking her, so what's your favorite Pokemon? It's like, I don't really play Pokemon. I just like dressing up as the outfit.
Yeah.
And then the guys get really angry.
Yeah, they
and then
take it so
other guys
personally,
get
like it
angry at
fucking
those
matters.
guys because those guys are getting angry at girls, and you're going to drive the girls away from the fucking fandom.
It's like
It's like, you're gay.
there's a Cometown bit about geeks or fandom where it's like they fucking hung out with some guys who are anime fans. It was one of the most embarrassing things ever. And it's like, yeah, this is pretty much what it's like for any to hang around any comic book nerd is that there's such embarrassing fucking faggot nerds all the
They got
time.
shit taste, and they don't really know much of anything
They don't have
to
the
begin
awareness
with.
that the stuff they like is the dumbest, fucking most embarrassing shit ever, too. Um, but anyways, getting back to the topic though, or the
And
comic.
it's the same thing. It's those people are the same people who like
Yeah.
K-pop. It's the
Yes.
exact same thing. K-pop,
Um,
J-pop, all that
anyways,
dog shit.
this part though is like it's a screening of like the Cat Morphers movie or some shit. It's like I am not long for this world. You must lead the Cat Morphers TM in my place. Father, no. Be strong, son. For me, for our people, for freedom. And it's like fucking also being quoted by a crying nerd in the audience. And then the best part, though, this is the thing that I remembered when people were talking about the He-Man reboot comic, cartoon, fucking whatever the fuck ever, just over the past day or two. The thing that popped into my head first was this part. And it's like Cat Morpher's creative team at this convention, like a panel. And someone says, this question is for Mr. Floyd. Many Cat Morphers fans believe that these characters represent the duality of human nature.
You're not talking enough like a lisping nerd.
Yeah, I know. I'm
Just imagine a more lispy nerd.
yes.
Imagine Linkara.
I'm not selling it. Many Cat Morphers believe, Cat Morpher fans believe that these characters represent the duality of human nature.
Don't talk to me.
You
You
son
son
of a
of a...
bitch.
It
It's
is
me,
I,
the
the light
light bringer. But yeah,
There
the
he
fans
is. There he
believe
is.
these characters represent the duality of human nature. That's actually how they talk.
That
But
is legitimately how they talk. But we're not going to do that.
yeah,
That would be
we're not-
annoying.
anyways, yeah, back to reading this. Oh wait, no, I was doing it again. I'm doing it again. Um, Many Catmorphers fans believe these characters represent the duality of human nature, with the cat representing instinct and impulse, and the robot representing cold, unfeeling logic. Was this toy corpse intent when they created the original toy line? And it's just the guy, just older version of the guy, and he's bald, and he's just like twitching and like cringing. He's very cringe, and then he just says,
Cringing internally.
yeah, he's cringing internally and externally, and then he just says, "Sure." And that's exactly what I thought of when I thought of the He-Man reboot and people like Clownfish TV, and I'm sure all sorts of other people. It's almost unfair to just mention Clownfish TV because I'm sure there's tons and tons of other people who are trying to milk the outrage of this cartoon that they haven't seen yet, and they're going, you know, who gives a fuck? But that's the reality, as fucking Sergeant Barnes would say in
That's
Platoon.
the truth. We know what we're talking about.
Yes. That's the grift. That's the real grift. Is a lot of people are, again, Clownfish TV is an example of this. People who are just making money about how they're mad about an 80s cartoon. And we decided to do a fucking over an hour long video about it because this is one of the things that we fucking notice so consistently is that all of this, most of YouTube nerd culture is just straight up a lie to get money from gullible people. And the gullible people are more than happy to shell out their money, but most of the money comes from like ad revenue or super chats. And that's why I say, make sure to unlike, share, recomment, go to our PayPal share screen, whatever the fuck, or I mean our Subscribe Star. Our Subscribe Star. Here's the thing. The only reason why I really shill our Subscribe Star is because all of our videos, if we made them public, we would be false flagged. And I do mean false flagged off of fucking YouTube. Again, we already had been by a lot of nerd culture people who are completely...
That's a lot of claim. That's a claim that nobody else can really
Yes.
make. Even some of the people who claim that they got fucking taken off of YouTube.
Yeah.
Those people usually delete their own channels, and they're like, "I got banned from YouTube." No, you didn't.
Yeah, if you see a person with like a 2 in their channel name, they deleted their own channel and pretended that they got banned when they didn't. Every time. That's a fucking universal constant. For us, though, we go against nerd culture. That's why we can't be monetized. And also, I'm not going to be monetized through YouTube because YouTube is a fucking shit platform, especially for monetization. So I say when we want money, we just beg for it on our Subscribe Star. And you get a bunch of extra videos on our Subscribe Star, including reviews of comics and other stupid gay nerd shit like that, which along this flavor of fucking kind of video, which is delightful and wonderful. So unlike reshare, don't comment, unshare, and should have listened to show.
Well, what, should we promote the fucking? Did we promote the thing?
What thing should we promote? I'm always for promoting a thing.
Subscribe Star.
Our subscribe. Whoa! Did you mention our Subscribe Star? Well, holy shit! It's linked below, by the way. It's a subscribestar.adult/shitty-webcomics where you can see all of our hidden videos. There's a bunch. There's actually shitloads of hidden videos. The majority of our videos on this channel you can't see unless you're subscribed to our subscribers. At least for $1, but usually the $5 tier is that keeps out the scum. The Untermensch is you have to pay the $5 tier to get past what the Untermensch are allowed to see. Because, again, we tried just making it $1, and the Untermensch was able to pay $1 to get through. It's very unfortunate. But, anyways, yeah, so, again,
currently there's
below
no
in the
way.
description.
There's no way to give these people AIDS through the internet so that they will fuck off.
If I could slash somebody's throat in real life through the internet, I would be elbow deep in people's internal organs already. So, if you want to help fund that, or if you want to help fund just our videos in general, including our free videos, our fucking 4 free videos like this, they're paid for by our current backers on Subscribestar. So, again, just give us money. We could soft shoot this all we want. Just give us money. And should have
Fuck you,
listened
pay
to.
me. Fuck you, pay me.
Yeah, fuck you, pay me, and should have listened. And we're drunk, go away now, and
Which
should
is
have.
our catchphrase. That
For
belongs
sure,
to
our
us.
catchphrase. But also, our best catchphrase is should have listened to shitty webcomics.